Hello knitters, this is Barbara Benson. I am an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make these videos for YouTube for you to watch on Watch Barbara Knit. If you would like to see any of my patterns, I will put a link in the description below to my Ravelry page where if you feel like you would like to knit some of these shawls that I'm getting ready to show you, you can go check them out. And as I just said, shawls is what we're going to be talking about today. Specifically, I want to talk to you about shaping shawls and my personal favorite shawl shape, which is the crescent shaped shawl. I've gone through several different iterations and I like to play with different shaping, and I'm really into rectangles right now for some reason, but I'm always drawn back to the crescent, and there are different ways to construct a crescent and way more than I can talk about, but I'm going to talk about a couple that I use so that you guys can know the difference and maybe why I made some of the decisions I made. And I have them right here, which is why I'm all like standing up. So the first one I wanted to show you this is called Irulan. And it is a fairly traditionally shaped crescent. One way you can shape a crescent is by putting all of your increases on this leading edge. This one isn't quite there. I have one that is shaped like that. It's called Each to Each, but it has gone to SSK with the dyer as a sample, so I don't have it right now. So this is the closest I have. And the thing that makes a crescent, at least this style of crescent, is the increasing pattern. It increases by 6 stitches every other row. Now, that can be every right side row, or you can divide it up between right side and wrong side, but every 2 rows, it increases by 6 stitches. With Irulan, I have increases. It starts with all of the increases on this top edge. But then when we get to the point, I think it's 2 on the right side and 1 on the wrong side, just on the edge. But then when I started making my shaping, I moved the increases to here. These right here are actually functional increases. So it shifted from being 2 on the edge to 1 on the edge and this 1 here. And then it shifts again and it shifts again. So it gives it a more graceful, I really think it's graceful, shaping, and kind of avoids that, that hump. This one started with a garter tab, and it avoids that little hump you get sometimes. And the hump doesn't bother me much. The thing that I love about crescents, let's make sure this goes on right, is that they curve around your neck and they stay on. And that's why I like crescent shawls, because unlike a triangle that has that top edge, you have to have more length than a triangle to get it to come around, which is great. And triangles have their own wonderful elements to them, but a crescent, you can get away with a smaller shawl and it will still stay on. So this is Irulan. Irulan is really good this isn't a variegated yarn, but it's really good for variegated yarns because of these wide swaths of stockinette and garter. So the next shaping that I do for crescents takes it to a little bit more of extreme. You know how I was talking about how I moved the increases on that? Well, this one I did the same thing. Again, we're doing 6 every 2 rows. But on this, we're doing 4 on the right side and 2 on the wrong side. This is called Lady Jessica. And the increases, I have 5 shawls that are this shape, and I call it a winged crescent. And you'll see, I'll put this one on, that it actually wraps even more. It comes further around. And these are actually, again, live increases. They're not paired, so they're functional, but they curve around, and it almost serves as like shoulder shaping. It keeps it on your arms and your shoulders. But what this does is there's an increase on the edge, And then these are increases. I can show you. Let's see if it'll get in close, hopefully. So it increases here. But what's different about this shaping and a lot of the shaping you see like this is that this, as you can see, is a big long swoop. It curves because it's not just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. It actually moves. And so it's a moving target that you keep track of with stitch markers. And it makes it easy so you don't have to count so much. But the stitch marker moves. You put it in on one row and take it out, and you're shifting it, and you move it in relation to the yarn over. So it tells you where to put the yarn over on the next row. But it gives this wonderful, instead of the lines going straight down and you getting a triangular chunk in the center, it gives it a much more open back. So that's Lady Jessica. And it also, when you get these long, you can pull it around. And all of my shawls with this shape have the garter on the wings because I find the garter functions almost like Velcro and it helps it stick, but it hangs. And this, you're probably wondering what these little tags are. All of my samples are tagged so that if I do a trunk show, people can know what they are. If you know anyone who's interested in a trunk show, send them my way. But there, see? And so it hangs very nice. Now next is another one. As I said, I have several in this. This is a variation on it in that I took the opportunity where, yes, we have the functional yarn overs that are an increase, but there's also a decrease in another yarn over to give it a double line, which, you know, hey, why don't we put a bead on it too? Because why lose the opportunity to make it prettier? So this is Caladan, and it has the beads. Let me see if I can show you a little closer up. Ooh, who knows if that worked? But again, this is a substantially smaller in yardage shawl than Lady Jessica. It's probably more comparable to Irulan. They're both this and Irulan are single skein sock yarn. But you can see it hangs around and it hangs down and it stays on. And I've also seen people tie it like that and it hangs really nice. Now, all of those start at the top here, right? They're starting at a point at the top and then increasing, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. This is your selvage right here. Your selvage is here, and your selvage ends up being your neckline. The next crescent shape I want to talk about is the asymmetrical. This is sort of a hybrid between a triangle and a crescent. This is Love Child, and as you can see, it's got the crescent shape on the top. Don't know if you can see this whole thing, but it has the crescent shape on the top, but then it has a little bit of point at the bottom. Now, the big difference here is this, it starts here, right? And you start at this point and you are increasing on your leading edge and decreasing on the trailing edge. And that is what causes the top, the neckline, to curve in this beautiful crescent. If you were just increasing on this neckline, you get a triangle. But because you're increasing here and decreasing here, it moves the whole thing and creates, it's almost like a bias. The thing I love about these asymmetrical shapes is the flexibility when it comes to size and yardage. When you get into something like this, like Caladan, you're limited in your flexibility on making it a larger piece because there's a set number, of repeats you do this way, and then it shifts and it changes, and changing those proportions is more challenging mathematically depending on how much yarn you have. This pattern does have instructions to make a small and a large, but you can't make it any size you want. The same goes for Irulan. It only has one size because you have these details. that move through these different patterns, pretty much that's the pattern. When you get into a shawl like this, it is a repeated pattern that you can just knit and knit and knit and knit, and as much yarn as you have, you can knit it. And the shaping, this is your bind off. You have this big long bind off at the end that actually creates one of your edges. So this is Love Child, and so it is still a crescent. Let's put it on so you can see how it hangs. Again, because of the curved neckline, it just hangs. It's pretty. And if I turn around, you can see how the point is off center and you still have a nice curve. So yeah, that's what your asymmetry brings. I have another shawl and I have several in this shape, and I'm thinking of more. I have one on the needles right now. I really like this shape because of its flexibility in making it bigger or smaller. The same shape, this is Vess, and this is in Miss Babs. It's fabulous. So this is the same shape as Love Child. Again, you start up here and you are increasing on the neckline, but instead of decreasing along that edge, what I have is these here are unpaired. So these are increases, but so you're increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing, but then here you bind off. And so with this bind off, you're actually taking away more than you added. So it does cause it to curve up because the net it's very complicated math, and it took me a long time to figure out, but I promise it works. And so I liked it because it gave it this little, I call them the little flappies or the teeth or whatever you want to call them. And I think it makes it look really cool with the flap. And let's put this one on. And again, you can see in the back the asymmetry, but then you have this trim on the one edge, and it's different, so it just enhances the asymmetry. I really like wearing this piece. Instead of like that, I do it this way and pull it around so that you get this, the trim that we worked so hard to build and I did so much math for. It goes off center, and I think it looks super cool. Now I did something fun on the end of this one, which gives it sort of a trim like on the other side, but a lot of that is blocking, because blocking is magic. So again, has the same flexibility in that it's the same, the repeat on this one is like this. It's a chunk about this big, and again, you could repeat it, you could stop early, you could keep on going and make it as big as you want. And then finally, I have something that is completely different, but still a crescent. This is Curiosity, and it shows you there's so many different ways you can do this. So it has a slight curve. You can probably see it best. Curves around the neck, like this, and so it doesn't get weird and bunchy. But the way it works is, again, like I like, it starts at this point and increases and gets wider and wider, but the increase, instead of being on the edge, is in the center on this one. So you are adding, I don't know if you can see that, you are adding up the center line, and that is what causes these columns of stockinette and garter to flare out like this, and it kind of makes a trumpet shape. This is in Malabrigo Arroyo, which is a sport weight, and the really cool thing I like about this is they had just come up with this color, and I was working in this color, and the colorway's name is Marta, M-A-R-T-E, which is Spanish for Mars. And I happened to be working on this pattern right when the NASA rover was landing on Mars. So, and it's called Curiosity. So I called this Curiosity, and I also thought it had a kind of comedy. It's got a spacey shape. So this one is really great, especially if you want to wear it under a jacket, because you've got this little flappy guy here that can tuck in and you can bunch it up and it looks fantastic. So it's another shape of a crescent. There's so many ways to make crescents, and what you want and what you're looking at for in your shawl is going to depend on what kind of crescent you look for. If you want one that has the elaborate progression of lace like this, where it changes as you go down, a top down is going to work fantastic. But if you want one that's really flexible with your yardage and for the yarn you want to use, especially like if you're using a hand spun and you're not real sure how much you have, that is when you want to go for one that's more asymmetrical and it starts up here, and who knows what other kind of shapes are going to be coming out there. There are constantly new and different ones coming out. So I hope that this gave you a little more insight into the crescent shaped shawls. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the discussion below the video. I'd be happy to answer them. And again, if you're interested in any of these shawls, you can check out my link to my Ravelry store. If you like this video and like to see more videos like this, please give me the thumbs up, push the like button, and to be notified whenever I make a new video and upload it to YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.